So when it comes to baking our artisan style bread that we've been working with the last 2 days, we're going to use either a lidded crock like a Dutch oven, or you're going to need to set up your oven something like this. This could be like a cast iron skillet that you can preheat to about 450, and then you'd also want a pan underneath, also preferably cast iron, that preheats at the same time. The reason for this is if you don't have a lidded crock like a Dutch oven, you want to find a way to bake the first 10 minutes or so as a moist heat. So you want water, steam inside the oven. So with a lidded crock like this, the steam that comes out as the bread bakes is trapped by the lid, and that's how you're creating the moist heat in that with the Dutch oven. The purpose of the steam is that it keeps your dough raw longer and allows the product to expand to the most volume that it can. If you have a dry heat, sometimes you can end up setting the crust before it's risen to its full volume, and in that case you're going to have you're going to lose some of the volume you otherwise would have. So we're going to either use a cast iron Dutch oven like this, and you're going to preheat that for about 45 minutes to an hour at 450, or you're going to set up one more time something like this. It's preferred that both of these be cast iron, something that can have a lot of thermal mass, because what you do if you don't have a lid is you'd put your dough inside this one that's preheated, and you would add ice to this pan so that as soon as it hits there, that preheated cast iron, it gives a flash of steam that you've trapped inside your oven, and that's going to allow the bread to rise to its highest volume as it's baking. The other thing that you need is you preheat these to 450, 475 thereabouts, because you want to have enough thermal mass that the dough, as soon as it hits the hot surface, the yeast gives its last hurrah and does what's called oven spring. This is going to result in the best part of the rise. So the raw dough at room temperature hitting the real hot surface of your baking vessel helps it really jump. So that's what we're going to be doing now, is we're going to turn the oven on. I'm going to use the Dutch oven right here because it's just a little bit easier. If you do use the ice method, you have to be careful and you don't burn yourself with the steam as you add it. But the same goes with this. Use the Dutch oven method once it's preheated. You have to really be careful when you put your dough in, which is why earlier I was saying I should have had a piece of parchment paper for the dough to rest on. And then I could just lift up the parchment paper and set it on the inside. Since I forgot that, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. So when you do this, get a piece of parchment paper for the final rise. Let the dough rise on parchment and then bake with the parchment, and that way you can just lift up the whole dough ball with the paper and set it inside your baking vessel without worrying about touching the sides.